Nashville, Tennessee is home to some of the world's finest musicians. From country music to R&B to hip-hop and everything in between, if you've heard it, Nashville's got it. But ever since I moved to the city in 2013, I've met some incredible musicians who fall in between the cracks. Amazing musicians who are passionate about that other music. So I'm not here to talk about the music you've probably heard. I'm here to introduce you to them, illuminate their music, and share their stories. My name is David Rogers. I'm an improviser, composer, and pianist here in Music City, USA, and I want to welcome you to the Improviser's Corner. On today's episode, I get the opportunity to sit down with keyboardist Mike Hicks. We talk about everything from navigating his musical journey as a sideman with Keb Mo, Johnny Lang, and now Rascal Flatts, to his love for basketball and the joys and challenges of being an independent artist here in Nashville. Maybe there's not a lot of these people, certainly not in Nashville, but for those 3 or 4 people who don't know who you are, maybe give us a little background on yourself, your journey, who you are, musically, otherwise.
Yeah. Mike Hicks, born and raised in Warner Robins, Georgia, a small town, son of a pastor and choir director, so probably as typical of a church boy story as you can get. Basketball fiend and fanatic growing up, still am. Mm-hmm. Got into music from a writing perspective, and then writing really strictly lyrics. Wow. And then that led to not being able to communicate what I was hearing musically to musicians. So that started the journey of playing. It's really trying to figure out how to get out what I was hearing in my head.
Wow.
And so left to go to college, went to Middle Tennessee State, go Blue Raiders. Did that thing, graduated, struggled, got a random couple of phone calls that led to meeting and working with Keb Mo. And that was a life changer, game changer. I'm forever indebted to that dude. Love him to death. And Keb Mo went to Johnny Lang, went to Rascal Flatts, and that's the sideman thing. And then I do my own stuff as well when time and money permit. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. Been married for a year. That's a major thing.
Wow, yeah. What was that? Remind me of that story. You were playing something with the Flats right around.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory. What was that? That was a crazy thing.
We in scheduling the wedding, looking at calendars, trying to see, when are open days, and it came up Labor Day weekend is open. Great. So hit up, management, everything, like, hey guys, look, I'm looking at September 2nd for the wedding. Is there anything? No, nothing. All's well, everything's great. And we were in Memphis in June. At this point, deposits have been made, vendors have been secured, yada, yada, yada. And one of my bandmates goes, yeah, he was asking about, when's the wedding again? I told him. He was like, oh yeah, it's right after that thing they just added. And I was like, okay, he's a jokester, so I'm not gonna budge.
Right.
Like, sure, whatever. He was like, no, like I wouldn't joke about this. He's like, I'll joke about everything else, but no, for real. There's a date that just got added. And I looked, and sure enough, the night before the wedding, we had a gig in North Carolina. It was a few days before. We played in Ohio, rushed back home that Friday, do wedding rehearsal that Saturday morning, leave wedding rehearsal with my groomsmen, drive to Carolina to catch up with Flatts, play the gig, drive back, get married Sunday. So, so it was it's a cool story to have attached to it, and it was great because the guys, Flatts, the fellas in the band, they came to the wedding as well. So it was cool.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. You've been on the touring for many years.
Yeah, at this point,
probably more than 10 years.
Yeah, it's 2019. So probably right at 10, 11 years at this point, so.
Yeah, and I know from my very short, brief experience that life on the road takes its toll in many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm curious, because I haven't figured it out. As someone who is as creative as you are, how do you manage the road life where it takes a toll on you, creatively, physically, emotionally? How do you navigate that?
One thing that I had to learn was, of course, recharge, run errands, do what you got to do that type of stuff. But I really had to immerse myself when I was at home in my own stuff. You can frustrate yourself in trying to be creative in whatever capacity you're in on the road. And if that's not necessarily welcomed or encouraged, then it becomes a friction of, well, I got, these ideas and my own personality, pent up that, there's no room for it on stage because it's not my show, it's not my music.
Right.
It's a challenge of can I make the time when I'm home to be creative? For a while, I used to take, a bunch of gear and a bunch of stuff and work on stuff during the day or at night. And that's cool, but that can also wear on you to the point to where, like, if I'm spending 4 hours in the morning, if I'm working from 10 to 2 with, in-ears in, and I'm working, and then 2 o'clock comes, and depending on the situation, that can be a sound check that's anywhere from 15 minutes to 2.5 hours. So if that's another, couple of hours on top of the 4 that I've already spent, by the time I get to the show, I can be worn out.
Totally.
As far as my ears being worn out, my brain being worn out.
Yeah.
And then I'm not executing what I'm supposed to be, like what I'm paid to do.
Yeah.
So part of it really is, working and grinding at home so that the time on the road is not conflicted with, is this my personal, shared time or whatever else.
Yeah. What is the best thing about transitioning into the Flatts gig?
Oh my goodness. Okay, the most surprising thing is the amount that I get to play. Yeah. Like the degree to which I'm able to be me. And it was cool because it was a situation where they hired me to be me. And so going in, I expected it for it to be, you know, because it's a much bigger production and because it's, you know, there's a different thing when it comes to times and curfews and all of that stuff. I expected for it to kind of be, once we rehearse, lock that in, autopilot for the rest of the tour. And from night to night, there's something different, you know, from week to week. They may, you know, look at the set, reassess some things like, we need to add this, we need to change this. Let's do a different hit here. Yeah. Or it was just really surprising on how free of a situation it is. I mean, granted, it's still play the show within the confines of what it is. Like, you know, let's not go crazy here. Yeah. But it's also, don't autopilot me either. Like, they actually looked at me like, okay, you know, we heard that last night. What else you got? Yeah. You know, and so it's cool. It's just a different thing. I would say the three touring gigs that are kind of on, you know, my resume and timeline it's Keb, Johnny Lane, and Rascal Flatts, and they're all three completely different and completely enjoyable things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I want to ask you about basketball.
Okay, all right.
Because this is fun. This is fun to talk about music, but it's also fun to talk about non-music too.
Oh yeah.
The NBA this season.
Can't wait.
I can't wait either.
Can't wait.
I grew up a Lakers fan, and I'm not a bandwagon Lakers fan. I grew up in Southern California, so I've been that way since I was 4 or 5. Who is a player or a team who people are sleeping on who they should not be sleeping on?
Okay, the slept on team, it's kind of weird. If the off season hadn't been what it was, I don't think this would be considered a slept on team. But I think a slept on team that's getting lost in all the narrative, Portland Trailblazers. I mean, it's kind of hard to say slept on when they went to the Western Conference Finals last year. But if you were to ask most people, I don't think anybody's considering them to, I mean, the tiers for a lot of people go LA, whichever. You've got 1 and 2. Houston's getting love. Denver will definitely be one of the top seeds, I think. Utah's getting a lot of love. I think people sleeping on my Warriors, but I'm a Steph Curry fanatic, so I still got the Warriors showing up. But I think people sleeping on Portland. They kept a lot of their core. They added some great pieces, and they're hungry too. And I think CJ McCollum and Dame Lillard, it's just an incredible duo. One of my best friends, a guy who he's a peer, but he's also like a mentor to me, a guy named Tyrus Sass. Oh, yeah. Tyrus always says musicians play like their personality. And I think the same goes for basketball players as well. And for me, As a player, I always want to be efficient. You know, a highlight here or there, but I didn't want to run point. It's not really my thing. And so even that translates, you know, musically. I don't like to do a whole lot of stuff. I'd rather it just feel good and be efficient. Like, especially I think it shows up more in sessions to where I feel like I've started to shine more with just coming in, being efficient. Can I play the parts? Sure. Can I give you a motif or something here or there, you know, a sig lick, you know, or a line? Sure. If you ask me to solo, no thank you. I'm not interested in soloing ever. So in the same thing, I'm not interested in, you know, pulling somebody out one-on-one like Harden or Kyrie. I love to see it. I love to watch it. So like I love, in the same way that I love to watch James Harden or Kyrie go one-on-one with somebody and make the highlight, I absolutely love to watch like Corey Henry play, who can by himself on an organ, piano, harpeggian, whatever, you know, he's just absolutely incredible. I love to watch it, but don't call me to be Corey Henry. Number one, I don't have the chops. Number two, that's just not, doing that is not what moves me. And so.
You kind of alluded to it earlier with, you know, you play sessions, you do quite a few sessions, you tour on the road, you do the artist thing here in town. You do so many things at a high level. And from the outside looking in, it's amazing. It's truly just amazing. From the inside looking out, are there things that you feel that are particularly difficult to manage the diversity of things, especially as an independent local artist?
Oh yeah, for sure. Nashville to me is a very difficult place to play music in, just because there's so many of us. But as far as being Mike Hicks, I don't think there's anybody who does Mike Hicks better than Mike Hicks. And it took a very long time to figure that out, because I don't know how many times it's, oh, I get it. So he's like the Nashville PJ Morton. And PJ is not only a mentor and like a big brother in the game for me, he's a friend of mine who I've been able to reach out to for years and years.
And he's on that single that you put out earlier this year.
And so I'm not only flattered and honored by that, but for a minute it really was trying to kind of reproduce what PJ does, and then I realized like, okay, PJ's he's a different cat than I am, and we value different things musically and whatever else. And once I figured it out, it was like, okay, cool. I know how to do me, and I got a grip on doing me. It's not as sweet and it's not as good without the people around me. I mean, that's the starting point for everything for me, is that I'm cool at what I do, and I get that. I know what I do well now. I know what I don't do well, and I'm blessed to have people around me who are excellent at what they do, who make the situation as a whole look like what it is. As far as influence, it's twofold. It's Black music, and I say it like that just because I didn't grow up with all of the musical influences that a lot of people, the stuff that you're supposed to grow up with, the stuff that you're supposed to know as a musician. I think people find it comical how little of the major stuff
me too.
I actually know. And so like, I feel like when you see a Mike Hicks show, you will definitely get some degree of an expose in Black music. And then the other thing too is I'm very drawn to speakers and preachers. And I mean, my dad was a pastor. I was licensed to preach when I was in high school. And so I was actually I may have been preaching before I was playing in church.
Wow.
And so I love that. I'd watch preachers at home. I still watch preachers now just because I love the interaction of it. Not always for content's sake, but the way they could communicate was just captivating to me. And so when people come to a show and, they're like, somehow you're able to get a bar to be like completely silent, or you're able to communicate things that may be challenging for people to listen to or hear, but you're able to do so in a way, it's because of people who I've studied. To me, growing up in Black church is the ultimate college. It's the ultimate place of higher learning it's training ground for learning how to react and control a situation in a room. How to flow. I always say there's a thread, it's kind of interwoven in all of Black music that's expressed differently, but I feel like it comes from the same place. So on one hand, it's, in church, it's, you got to follow the Spirit because anything goes. Anything in any key at any time goes. And so it's, you got to follow the Spirit. In R&B, it's vibing. Can you sit in a vibe and just, vibe on something and see where it goes? It's the same thing. In jazz, it's improvisation. Can you sit within a band context and as different things are happening, flow and move with it? In hip hop, it's freestyle. It's, can I take my environment and what's happening and move, along with it? And so I love it.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Practice. Practice. Because it gets more difficult to practice as you get older. I mean, it takes some discipline to carve out the time, but so much of my time spent now is learning music or producing music or working on stuff. And it wasn't that I wasn't doing the same thing when I was younger, because it was, but it wasn't prioritizing spending time with my wife, or, going and being a present uncle to my nephews, or doing this thing or that thing, or trying to be, present in the community, in schools, and yada, yada, yada. It wasn't all of that. So while there's time to practice and learn, practice and learn, and not just from a musicianship standpoint of playing, but also like, work on, if you want to produce, research, learn what production is and how that goes, engineering, whatever, really, I wish I could tell my younger self to work on those things.
Last question quickly. How good was that Popeye's fried chicken sandwich?
Oh man, yo. It's great. It's great. I can't even front. It's great. I'm a Chick-fil-A stan. I love the environment, everything about Chick-fil-A. But I can do Chick-fil-A regularly. That Popeyes thing is special. And I don't think I can do the Popeyes thing every day. But it's weird. It made me realize Chick-fil-A tastes like Chick-fil-A. Like it's just Chick-fil-A. Yeah. I don't really know how to describe it. It's Chick-fil-A. Popeyes tastes like a fried chicken sandwich. It's like fried chicken. What fried chicken tastes like after church. Or after if you go to a black funeral and they got a repast, it's the fried chicken that you get there. Those folks are the ones who contributed the recipe for the Popeyes joint.
Yeah. I enjoyed reading that expose yesterday.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, serious.
Well, cool. Thank you so much. This was
great.
Brother.
Thank you,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a little playing.
Yeah.